video is going to focus on the basics of survival tactics. I'm going to be doing so with a very small gear set here, and what I'm using is a poncho, a collapsible water bladder, you can use a canteen, flashlight, pen and paper, a pocket knife, and two disposable lighters, which all you need is two sources of fire, whether it be lighters or the magnesium fire starters or matches, whatever. You only need two. Now, this is a very basic, small survival course. It's going to rely a lot on scavenging and everything else. Some of the techniques I'm going to show here as far as stealth techniques go are going to be used primarily in an urban setting, just to demonstrate that survival techniques can be executed in an urban setting. I might get into some basic foraging, herbal medicine, and like edible plants in the survival portion of this video. So probably multiple videos, so bear with me. Now, I want to point something out here. I've already gone through the escape and evasion training, the basic movements for getting out of the way and everything else, avoiding people, crossing trails without looking like a human being crossing trails, stuff like that. The next immediate thing is going to be shelter. Now, in that little survival kit I mentioned, I set a poncho for 90% of your shelter needs. I'm going to point something out here while I got the chance. This little area back here behind me that I'm pointing at is a pine tree. There's pine cones and everything else. The pine cones and the pine sap actually somewhat kill smaller plants from growing. So it actually gives you a small, cleaned out area where you don't have a lot of brush and stuff like that. That right there acts as a nice little shelter in the wild, kind of a pre-made field expedient deal for yourself and as well as animals. Also, right here at this particular spot, you have a either a blueberry or a raspberry plant. I think it's raspberry, and as you can tell, there's no raspberries actually grown on it yet. So that kind of hurts me as far as food goes, but I'm going to point something out here. What we have here, this here is wild wheat. It grows wild. This is what it looks like. You can actually eat the stalk of the plant right here, this little white part, which is where all the sugar takes place from the photosynthesis. So you can actually eat this, and it doesn't really have much of a taste, kind of like celery, not strong. And you can put some carbs back in your system, but it's going to require a lot of eating this to get somewhere. You're probably going to get about maybe here, because these aren't exactly mature. This is the reason you see a lot of country boys chewing on a piece of wheat. It's because they're getting that little sugar right there. That said, you also have a case of wild dandelions here. And just like the sugar, you have a lower portion of the stalk where, or I'm sorry, just like the wheat, you have a lower portion of the stalk where sugar pretty much is collected from the photosynthesis. And you can actually eat that part too. But I warn you, it's got a sour taste to it. So, kind of tastes like shit, to be honest with you. Now, out here among other edible plants that I didn't mention earlier, this here is a poke stalk. Poke berries are poisonous, they'll make you sick. Don't eat them. And you can eat the poke stalk. However, that being said, in order to do so, you have to skin the stalk. What I'm talking about is quite simple. This little red stuff on the outside of it will make you sick if you eat it. If you eat enough of it, it can kill you. So what you essentially have to do is skin the stalk like this. Keep going until you get rid of all the red. And there they are. They're very tough, by the way. And they have a very sour taste. They taste better if you cook them, believe it or not. I'm just going to tear a little sliver off. You can also skin them much the way I just did this little sliver, and braid them together and let them dry out to make rope. But yeah, you can eat them. Alright, more in the way of edible plants, you have these right here, which are honeysuckles. Whoops, I'll grab another one. They have kind of a sweet taste to them on the leaves. Try to eat them. You can actually eat the flower. They have a little bit of sugar to them towards the base of the flower, particularly right here along the base of them. Otherwise, they have a very sour taste. And you can actually take them and add them to water. Probably boil them, but you can eat this little bit right here at the end. Like I said, it has a very sweet taste to it. You can actually mix them with a little bit of water to make it kind of like a tea. Boil it into like somewhat of a sweet tasting tea. It's got a little bit of a sweet sour flavor to it. Kind of a little bit does taste a little bit like almost like a sour honey. But again, this is another edible plant that a person can live off of in the wild. And another one to point out here is this small little plant. I forget the name, but as I should point out, when you get that white towards the end, it's up here by the flower. And again, you can actually brew this as a tea or eat this as a flower straight. And no harm, no foul. Got a little bit of a sour taste, but the sugar is enough to pretty much keep you going if you have to. So, like I said, Ninjitsu is more of a survivalist martial art. Less about running around in a little black shinobi gi and more about being able to apply techniques to a real world environment. Especially the purpose of this one, which is kind of the escape and evasion type situation.